students, today we are going to continue the remaining portion of nucleic acids. In the last class, we have learned about the stability of proteins. Today we are going to understand about which are the factors that give stability for the nucleic acids. Four factors are there, mainly to give the stability to the nucleic acid. Which are that factors? Hydrogen bonding, base stacking, conformational entropy, and cation binding. These are the four main factors that give stability to the nucleic acids. We are going to see each of these factors one by one. First is hydrogen bond. Regarding this hydrogen bond, we have learned so much in the previous classes. Anyway, I am just repeating once more where these hydrogen bonds are forming. It is usually forming between two electronegative atoms. It is forming between two electronegative atoms. Okay, this is a picture of periodic table. We know that as we go from left to right, the electronegativity increases, and also from moving from bottom to top, also the electronegativity increases. So that's the basic thing. And the hydrogen bond, we know that it usually form between two electronegative atom, and also that hydrogen should be there to form that particular bond means hydrogen bond. Look in this picture. In this picture, before that, one more thing I am pointing, that is oxygen and nitrogen are electronegative atoms usually present in nitrogenous bases. These two are nitrogenous bases. Adenine, these four are nitrogenous bases. One is adenine and the next is thymine, and between these two nitrogenous bases we can see that this is the hydrogen that is bonded to an electronegative nitrogen, and its other end is bonded to another electronegative oxygen. So between this nitrogen and oxygen, with the help of that hydrogen, which bond is forming? Hydrogen bond is forming. Here also the electronegative nitrogen is there, again nitrogen, between the hydrogen bond is forming. Look here, in the case of guanine and cytosine, there is chance for forming three hydrogen bond between the electronegative atoms, like oxygen, nitrogen, nitrogen and oxygen. So that's about the hydrogen bond. It's a very weak bond, and in between adenine and thymine, two hydrogen bonds are forming. Between guanine and cytosine, three hydrogen bonds are usually forming. Okay, next slide. What is the significance of this hydrogen bond? These bonds are very weak. We know that they are very weak. But even if they are weak, as the number of hydrogen bond is more, more number of hydrogen bond give enough strength for the strength and stability for the double helix. Um, as if we consider a single hydrogen bond, we know that is very weak. But as there is numerous hydrogen bonds are present in one double helix, it gives enough strength for that double helix to make it more stable. Next factor is base stacking. Base stacking, uh, the way of the arrangement, the way in which nitrogenous bases are arranged in the DNA. We know that between guanine cytosine, three hydrogen bonds are there. So it is more stable than adenine and thymine, that base pair. Because between adenine and thymine, only two hydrogen bonds are present. So it is less stable when compared with the guanine cytosine base pair. So those region or those DNA having more GC content, that DNA is more stable than that with the more AT content DNA. Okay. Next,
conformational entropy. It can also constitute the stability of nucleic acid. And first we need to understand what is conformational entropy. Conformational entropy is the entropy associated with the number of conformations of a molecule. I will make it clear. Suppose there is two molecules, let it be protein or nucleic acid or anything like that. And this molecule can exist in 5 different conformations, and this can exist only in 2 conformations. Then which of them will be more stable? Certainly this will be the more stable because it can exist in 5 different conformational pattern form. So those molecule, those having maximum number of conformational level will have the greater entropy, greater stability. Okay, the same thing I will make it more clear with the help of some drawing. Okay, I'm going to show you a box. This is box, and the total energy of this box is 5. And as its energy, total energy is 5, he has 5 energy levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means those molecule that is located in this place, in this layer, will have one energy, and those located here have 2 energy, and those located here have 3 energy, and like that. So in this box we are going to arrange 3 molecules. We can name it as A, B and C. Molecules A, B and C. I'm going to arrange it inside the box. First I am going to keep the A molecule here, B molecule here, and then the C molecule here, and we can calculate the energy. The energy of A is 1, B also 1, plus C is 3, is equal to 5 total energy. This is one arrangement, possible one arrangement. Then I am going to draw again another arrangement, with respect to the same box. First energy level, second, third, fourth and fifth. Okay, here I am going to arrange the the 3 molecules in a different way. I will show you that. Now I'm going to place the A molecule again here, but B I am going to keep in the third energy level and C in the first. Here also the energy of A is 1, B is 3 and C is again 1. Total 5. Okay, then I am going to draw another possible way of organizing. Okay, inside the box, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here I am going to arrange the 3 molecules. In what form I am placing the B? With regard to A, I am keeping that A in the third energy level, and B molecule I am placing first and the C in the second. Calculate the energy. A is 3 plus 1 plus 1. Again 5. This is another way we can organize this molecule. Then I am going to show you another possible way also there to arrange the same 3 molecules. I will show you that. Again the same box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 energy levels are there. Here I am arranging the 3 molecules in this way. This way means, I'll show you. I'm going to keep the A molecule in the first energy level and B and C in the second. Then what will be the energy? A have 1 energy, B have 2 and the C also have 2, total 5. This is another. And I'm going to show you one more, not one more, the other possible way of organizing the 3 molecules, the same box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are going to organize the same 3 molecules A, B, C again. This time I'm going to keep the A in the second energy level, B in the first, and C in this way. We can calculate the energy. A having 2, B having 1, and C again have 2. Total 5. And is there any other possible way of organizing? Yes, we can go and check that. One more is possible with these 3 molecules in this 5 energy level limitation. The same box again, 5 energy level, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here how we can organize the 3 molecules. Let us see that. Here I'm going to keep the A in the second and B in the second and C in the first. Here the energy is 2 plus 2 plus 1 is equal to 5. So with these 3 molecules in a system of 5, total energy is 5, we can arrange it in 6 different ways. And these 6 different way we can compare it as different conformations possible for a molecule. So which all molecule that can exist in as many as high number of conformation, that molecule is more stable. Clear? Okay. Next I am going to show you a video about the entropy. The basic concept about entropy is that it is the energy associated with a disordered state. Okay, and that energy we can't utilize for doing any useful work. So we can see that video. This is a system, and in this system we can see so many molecules of that gas, some type of gas is filled in this area, and it is confined with the help of some barrier. And in this video you can see that as this barrier is raised, then these molecules freely move, and we can't locate the exact position of each molecule because each and every moment it is changing the position. So many possibilities are there. So possibility means possibility with respect to its position for each molecule, and that varies with respect to certain parameters like temperature, then pressure, like that. With each combination of that criteria, means at certain temperature, certain pressure, each molecule have some position or different positions are there. We can't predict it. So think that if we remove this barrier, then these molecules are free to move this much area. Then that means that much possibility of positions is there, and that much disorderness increase, and that much increase in the entropy when compared to the small space. So we can just start to see that.
In a gas, for example, we do not have the ability to control the specific position and velocity of each of the gas atoms. But we do have the ability to change properties, such as the volume and the pressure of the gas, by performing an action such as lifting this barrier. Similarly, we do not have the ability to measure the position and velocity of all of the gas atoms, but we do have the ability to measure properties such as the volume, pressure, and temperature of the entire gas as a whole. Suppose we don't know the positions of these three objects, but we
Look here. Look here. This is a checkboard, and we can see three objects here. As this checkboard's area is this much, it has so many options to occupy position. This much area is there. So this much size, this sized checkboard have more entropy. If we reduce the checkboard size up to this only this much, then these objects have only a small opportunity for having different position. So its entropy is less when compared to a checkboard with this much size. This also we can see now.
know the size of the area they are located inside. There are a number of different combinations of positions for the objects that could be inside this area. Now, suppose we have another situation. Here, the size of the area in which the objects are located is slightly larger. But the number of different combinations of positions for the objects is far, far greater than before. Only a tiny fraction of the possibilities are shown here. When there is a larger number of different ways in which something can happen, we give this a name, and we say that this has a higher entropy.
Have higher entropy when more possible options are available.
However, the probability of the objects being in each of these configurations is still exactly equal to the probability of the objects being in this original configuration. Every possible combination of positions is equally likely. The concept of entropy does not apply to a specific combination of positions of the three objects. Rather, entropy applies to a measurement such as the size of the area that the three objects are confined to.
So that size of the area is more important.
If we know that the three objects are confined to the smaller area, then we say that the system has less entropy than if we know that the three objects are confined to the larger area. This is because there are more combinations of positions that are possible inside the larger area than inside the smaller area. However, each individual combination of positions in the larger area is still equally likely to each individual combination of positions in the smaller area. Each individual combination of positions in the larger area is still equally likely to each individual combination of positions.
That means the chance for occupying any of this position, that chance is equally likely. There's no priorities.
In the smaller area. In the case of the gas, we have the ability to measure not just the volume, but also properties such as the temperature and pressure of the gas. Let us call each possible combination of measurements for volume, temperature, and
So if we consider such a system, there are certain set of criteria are there, like temperature, then pressure, volume. So a combination of all these criteria, that means at a certain temperature is a certain pressure and certain volume, there will be certain positions are possible for all these molecules. So that combination of that criteria means temperature, pressure, volume is called macro state. And in that macro state, in each set of macro state, each set means each combination. Each combination means, for example, 2 atmosphere pressure and this much volume and this much temperature. What is the position of all these molecules, and what is the movement? What are possibilities? Clear? So that each combination is called a macro state, and in each macro state what is a position and movement, that is micro state.
pressure a macro state of the system. Let us call each possible combination of positions and velocities for all of the atoms a microstate of the system. For each combination of volume, temperature, and pressure measurements, there are many different possible combinations for the positions and velocities of all the molecules. In other words, for each possible macro state, there are many different possible microstates. The specific number of possible microstates is different for each macrostate. For example, the number of possible microstates is much larger for a macrostate with a larger volume.
That means here that macro state, that is the volume is higher. So when compared to the former situation means here that volume is very less, and when the volume is increased, that means macro state is increased, then that entropy, that randomness is also increased.
If the number of possible microstates is larger, then we say that this particular macrostate has a higher entropy. The concept of entropy only applies to macrostates, not to microstates.
That means the degree of entropy, that mainly depends upon the macro states. That means the amount of volume, what is the pressure, what is the temperature. Based on that micro states are changing. Okay, when volume is more, then more chance for disorderness, more chance for more different positions. That means high entropy.
All microstates are equally likely, but not all macrostates are equally likely.
Okay, that is about that video. I think you understand the concept what is entropy to certain extent. So how we measure the conformational entropy for a nucleic acid? First, we need to understand how many possible conformations are possible out of that nucleic acid. Uh, how many different conformations? So, depending upon the extent, that will be the extent of the entropy also. As the entropy is more, there is more stability. Okay.
Next point, cation binding. What is cation binding? Cation means it is positively charged ion. Anion is negatively charged ion. What is the significance of this type of binding? we know that nucleic acid molecules are highly charged polyanion. Anion means it is negatively charged. So we know that yeah, like charge always repel. So as this nucleic acid is mostly of polyanion, that's negative charge, there is more chances of repulsion between its backbone. Backbone give more stability. So as the repulsion is there, it's now that for maintaining the double bond, it's not good, that repulsion. So we need to reduce that repulsion between the phosphate. For that, sodium and magnesium ions are very important. It should be present in its external environment. It is necessary to neutralize. It is necessary for to neutralize the negative charges on the backbones to reduce the repulsive Coulombic interaction phosphates between the phosphate group in the backbone. Even, they are all negative charged, so there is chance for having a repulsion. For reducing that repulsion, there should be some positively charged cations like sodium and magnesium. So look in these two pictures. In this picture we can see that here sodium is present and chlorine also there. Chlorine is negative. So in that medium, that duplex is less stable. And look in this picture here, that negatively charged ions are totally absent. So that duplex is more stable. So positively charged ions, presence of such type of ions in this external atmosphere, external environment is very important to give stability. That is cation binding. That cation binding give more stability. Cation means positively charged ions. So that's what. So ionic properties like ion concentration and charge, size of the ion, all these factors play important role in determining stability and also the folding kinetics of nucleic acids. Okay. Next, we are going to see about another section of this chapter, that is protein nucleic acid interaction. In what way proteins interact with the nucleic acids? The physical forces involved in the interaction between protein and nucleic acids. Which are the physical forces? There are electrostatic interactions are there. Electrostatic interaction means salt bridges. Salt bridges means it is a bond, is a type of bond formed between oppositely charged ions. Salt bridges are bonds formed between oppositely charged residues that are very close to each other. By that way, they have an electrostatic attraction between them. Okay. The next physical force that the physical force means next type of interaction between protein and nucleic acid is dipolar interactions are there. That is hydrogen bond. We know that many hydrogen bonds are acting in different places, different for fulfilling different functions. Different types of hydrogen bond exist in DNA. Then entropic effects means hydrophobic interactions. Protein makes many hydrophobic interactions with the DNA or a nucleic acid, and dispersion forces also is present between the protein and nucleic acid. And dispersion forces means is type of forces that is occurring in base stacking. Base stacking means the base pairing is ordered arrangement of base pair along the DNA double helix. These are the main physical forces. All these physical forces contribute in a varying manner for the stability and also for different functions of the nucleic acid. And we are going to see in what way the protein interact with the nucleic acid. In what way it interact? Each protein we know it has a primary structure. Primary structure we know is extended um, chain like. Then a secondary structure, folded structure is there. Then tertiary means again multiple folding. So even if it is folded, some motifs, some regions are there in protein. That alpha helix motif in certain protein. That region is inserting into the major groove of the DNA. This is a DNA. We can see that the alpha helix major groove of the protein, alpha helix motif of the protein is inserting into the major groove of the DNA. Okay, in that way it insert and then influence different function of the nucleic acid. Then that affinity of the protein to DNA, we need to increase. How can we increase? How protein increase that affinity? Through oligomerization. Oligomerization means because if consider if one protein is composed of only a single polynucleotide, polypeptide chain, then it is a simple protein. If it joins with another polypeptide chain of same type or different type, then it become more stable, or it can more tightly it can interact with the DNA. Again, it can assemble one more copy of the same protein. In this way, it is becoming a multi-protein complex. Multi-protein complex. This process of formation of a complex from single subunit protein. This process is called oligomerization. So many subunits are joining to form a big multi-subunit protein. That process is called oligomerization. That process actually helps to increase the affinity and specificity of protein towards the nucleic acid. And also at the same time, nucleic acid secondary and tertiary structure, that structure also give additional mechanism for the protein to recognize that nucleic acid to bind its specific sequence. For binding the nucleic acid specific sequence, its secondary and tertiary structure also provide additional mechanism for this proteins. Okay. Next slide. Then nucleic acid binding domains. Where is in nucleic acid, at which region these proteins are binding? That we are going to see. The location of the binding domains. It is located in some conserved domains, conserved region. That region is conserved, and it's seen in the tertiary structure of the nucleic acids. And also in the nucleic acid itself, that domains multiple copy can be present. Same domain, multiple copy of same domain or different domain can present in a nucleic acid. So if we consider a nucleic acid, it doesn't mean that it contains only one domain. It may contain so many domains, and all that domains may be of same type or different type. And the identity and also the arrangement of these domains are very important for the interaction with the concerned proteins. Then which are the different DNA binding domains? Usual common DNA binding domains. Their single finger motifs is there. Helix turn helix motif is or domain is there. Helix loop helix domain is there. Winged helix is there. Leucine zipper domain is there. All these are domains present in DNA for interacting with the protein. Then which are the domains in RNA for interacting with the protein? They are single finger, KH, S1, PAZ, PUF, PIWI, RRM. All these are domains usually common in RNA to bind with the proteins. Then we are going to see the different protein DNA interactions. In what all way protein interact with the DNA. How these proteins are locating the target site, because consider this is a DNA and this is the protein how it locate its target site. This protein slide along the DNA, and upon reaching a specific sequence it bind that sequence and do its function. Yes, sir. In that way it locate the target site. Next, significance of this type of interaction. What is the role of this type of interaction? Through this type of interaction, it can control the structure of genomic DNA. Structure of genomic DNA it can control. Also, it can regulate the transcription. Transcription from the DNA, RNA is transcripted. The transcription also regulated through this protein, nucleic acid or DNA interaction, and also in DNA repair mechanism. In that also, this type of interaction play an important role. Then we are going to see what are these interactions in the structural level. Structural level, what are the mode of interventions made by this protein? Because of the protein DNA interaction. Because we know that chromatin is a highly extended. In this form, it is very difficult to transcribe it. And also, all the genes are not necessary to transcribe. Some genes need to be kept silent. For that, those regions of the gene that need to be kept silent, that region become tightly coiled with the help of this protein. And all the other region that need to be transcribed, that is kept loose. This is the structural level role. Structural level of protein DNA interaction. By that way, it can unravel selective portions of the chromosome for transcription, and also can tightly pack specific areas or genes to keep them silent without expressing. That is the structural level. Then what is the transcriptional regulation? Transcription level means first think that this is a gene. This is gene, and gene it's this beginning portion. This is a start site. Start site. Beginning portion is called promoter. Promoter, and in front of this enhancer sequence is there. And all these are certain nucleotide sequences. During the type of transcription, at first some proteins come and bind the enhancer sequence. Then by this interaction, it attracts some other proteins. Some other proteins to come and bind the promoter sequence. These group of proteins are called transcription factors. Transcription factors. As this bind to the promoter, these proteins have some certain domain. This domain activates some other protein or enzymes to come and bind the start point and to initiate the transcription of that particular gene. That is the transcription level regulation mediated through several interactions of many different types of proteins. Okay. Then as a result of transcription, what is forming? mRNA is forming. So then in that stage, again some proteins in the form of enzymes make some other interactions with the RNA. That's mRNA. For whatever process that interactions is using for splicing, for protection of the mRNA, for the translation and degradation of the mRNA. In all these levels, many different proteins are interacting with the RNA. Splicing, we consider the case of splicing corresponding to the promoter sequence. In the mRNA also there will be some sequence. That sequence need to be spliced out. For that also some protein or enzymes is coming. That is one type of interaction that involved in splicing. And also 3' end of mRNA and 5' end, highly modified. Suppose this is an mRNA. This is an mRNA. Its 5' end is capped with the help of a modified guanine base, and 3' end is modified by the addition of some polyadenosine nucleotide. So in that way, mRNA need to be modified. In that modification also, so many proteins are involved. Okay, that is another type of interaction. This addition of this cap and this tail are part of protecting the mRNA. So in protecting mRNA also, many protein RNA interactions are involved. Okay. Then another significance also there for the 5' and 3' yeah, end of the mRNA. What's the significance? Because in the 5' or in the 3' end, certain regulatory sequences are present. This regulatory sequence play important role in regulating post-transcription process. Means after transcription, means maybe splicing or protection or like that, post-transcriptional process, and also in translation. So regulation at this level is mainly based on some conserved regulating sequence that is present in the 5' or 3'. UTR means untranslate region. This region will not get translated, so it is called untranslated region, UTRs. So we are going to see an example of this regulation, or the role of this regulating sequence in the 5' and 3' end. In that way, we can understand how the protein involved, or a protein make an interaction with RNA for making its expression. So we are taking the case of iron level regulation inside the cell. Suppose think that if a cell contain enough amount of iron, then means the additional amount after the requirement of the cell need to be stored somewhere. For storing, there should be some protein for helping the storage of iron. So in the iron rich state, the cell or the body need to store the additional iron. And in another situation, if iron's level is less, in that situation we don't need to store it's not possible to store iron. Instead, the body or that cell require additional amount of iron. That is the condition that I am going to demonstrate you. So this is the ferritin gene. Ferritin gene is the actually the gene or the concerned with the synthesis of a protein that helps in the storing of iron in the body. Okay, that I am showing. This is a ferritin mRNA, and this ferritin mRNA contain a 28 nucleotide constant sequence. It may be in the 5' or in the 3' end. That sequence is called iron responsive element, IRE. It is present here, where in the ferritin mRNA's 5' or 3' end, 28 nucleotide sequence. Now we are talking about an iron low state. Iron low state means the body or that cell require additional supply of iron. So at that time, body cannot store iron. So don't need ferritin protein. So we need to stop its translation. How that process is undertaking, that I am going to show you. That time a protein is forming that is called iron responsive protein. What it is doing, it come and bind in the iron responsive element, that region, that sequence, and it prevents the translation of that ferritin protein. So this happens when iron level is low. Then think other situation. Iron level is high, iron is more. That means we need to store. Means body needs to store the additional amount of iron. So what the body is doing that time? That protein and responsive protein is moving from that consensus sequence, and as a result the translation of ferritin goes on and excess or additional level of iron is storing in the body. So many proteins are involving, so many not so many, some proteins are involving in this single pathway. An example to show that the presence of some regulatory sequence in 5' and or 3' UTR, and also this regulatory sequence functions with the help of some additional proteins. This is another example for RNA protein interaction. Okay. Next, miRNA. Regarding the miRNA, you have learned in detail in one of our class. Again, I am just pointing you what is miRNA. We know that that it is a type of mRNA. Sorry, it's a type of RNA help to silence the mRNA or to control the expression of mRNA. And during its processing, means the formation of mRNA, and also in its function, it is interacting with so many proteins in the form of enzyme. We already learned about all those proteins. I just mentioned the names of those proteins: DROSHA, dicer, exportin, RISC. All these are enzyme in the form of enzymes, and also they are proteins. And all these proteins need to interact with the miRNA for to execute or perform its function of controlling or silencing the mRNA. These are the different type of interactions of protein with the nucleic acids. Okay, with this we finish today's class and section. Thank you.